you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the November 17th Selectmen's meeting virtually. I'd like to call the meeting to order and get a roll call vote.
Veronica Kell present.
Wayne Miller present. Can you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's kind of tough to coordinate virtually. All right, I'd like to announce the meeting is being recorded and shown on Channel 9 Live. 1-3 Chairman's additions, deletions. I don't believe I have any other than a COVID update under your administrator update, Jim?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Comments before we move on? Okay. Take silence as a no. I guess I asked Jim to invite Brad because it's been, I don't know how many months now since they've taken over. Just want an update as to where we are as far as the system and security and all that fun stuff. So I don't know if you've asked him anything else.
Just those points. I know that Veronica specifically had said with a focus on security as well. So I think Brad's prepared to.
I was curious about backups. I think security was a resident concern, but I was worried about backups as well. So.
There you go, Brad.
We will cover backups. Actually, it's one of the bullet items that I wanted to review and discuss. Our assessment audit of the event was rather interesting. There was a mix of anti-malware products, applications in the environment, quite an assortment from malware by, and one of the most startling things from our perspective is there were wireless networks throughout the environment, and we can start with Town Hall in particular. Joining the wireless network, unfortunately, immediately led to on the enterprise network. So anybody with an iPhone, iPad, tablet, PC, laptop of any sort, instantly jump on the network, and keep in mind you could do it externally from the building, and you had instantly had access to every single asset in the environment. People normally think of IT and security from a physical perspective when they close their eyes. Not sure if everyone's aware, the town hall is connected to the highway department, the library, and the cemetery department, and was connected to the water department. So as an example, anybody in the water department, and this was a concern that I expressed previously, could immediately gain access to town hall resources, the server, backups, all that kind of stuff. We've gone through quite a bit of time and effort to what we call segregate the network. So as an example, in Town Hall right now, when you join the guest network, you only gain access to the internet. And secondarily, if you are on the enterprise network with a wireless device, you have to authenticate through a radius server, which is associated with the domain. If any of the technical terms or whatever, or if I'm over anybody's head, just feel free to speak up and interrupt me. I want to leave this relatively informal. The other thing that we've done, I think, which is noteworthy, is we've implemented what we believe is the best practice for a layered cybersecurity protection. So it's simply not just a piece of software on PCs or servers or firewall or anti-malware, et cetera. So there are several layers that an attacker would have to go through to gain access to the network. Not saying it's impossible. Not sure if anybody on the call is aware. Salem, New Hampshire was attacked and hacked about 3 or 4 weeks ago, including police and fire and public safety and so forth. Not sure how they made out, but I know it was in the news, and we were certainly well aware of it. Right now, the network collectively of all the sites that I mentioned that are remaining and connected is 104 endpoints. We track everything that is connected to the network, whether it's a PC, a server, it can be a wireless point, a printer, an IP phone, regardless devices, we're continually tracking those devices. And secondarily, when any new device is connected to the network, we're instantly connected what time it was, whether from HP, an iPhone, or whatever it is.
You're breaking up a little, Brad.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was mentioning that we have new device identification with an alert. So if a PC, an iPhone, or whatever device attaches to the network from anywhere, we're immediately become aware of it. We also have real-time threat protection in place. On the endpoint, there's a anti-malware application that we like and use a lot that's found a number of instances of malware, I guess I'll call it for lack of a better word. And secondarily, and more recently, we implemented some threat protection on the inside of the network. Most of the protection is around the perimeter. Okay, so for example, in the firewalls, we've implemented what's referring to as geofencing, so that people inside the network cannot connect to sites in China, Eastern Europe, Russia, et cetera, because that's where most of the attacks are emanating from. And it's important to note that that's one of the layers of the security protection. Okay. The real-time threat detection that we recently implemented identified 2 instances of trick bots, TRICK-BOT. That is a precursor to ransomware. It was immediately identified, and we went through the steps to eradicate it, and then a second noted, and that was eradicated automatically. We've also implemented a Microsoft 365 email, which I believe a number of you are using, and that currently uses multi-factor authentication through your phone, through texting and or a telephone call. Per Microsoft, that'll soon be going away because the telephone network is known to be insecure, and anybody can reassign your number in a heartbeat. And have the call apps on smartphones, and you'll have to authenticate that way. In terms of backups, I know that you mentioned, Veronica, backups on all of the servers in the environment, all of the files are captured daily, and issues, et cetera, that come up, that we become immediately aware of those and address those in a service ticket. And then periodically, files are restored on a proof of concept basis to verify that the backups are good. Our next step in that regard is we're looking to move the backup location. Right now, everything is housed in Town Hall. Very soon, we're going to be looking at moving the backup, I guess I'll call it an appliance, it's actually a server, to the library so that we have replication between sites. so that the data will reside in town hall and also be replicated to a device in the library if there were a catastrophic event, a fire, explosion, or whatever in town hall, a gas leak, that there's a secondary location where the data would be stored. And I guess I'll say with that summary, that's the state of security. I'd be glad to entertain or answer any questions anyone may have.
So we're in a significantly better spot when we were before you started. So I'm well aware of all those things, because this is the stuff we talked about at the very beginning about the goals we wanted for the town. So I'm happy to see the state that we're in.
I can say that, and again, it's not to point fingers at anyone. It was a mishmash. There was no documentation of the network. The backups were ad hoc, and there was no notification. There was no way for anybody to be notified that backups were either succeeding or failing on a daily or ongoing basis. So we put a lot of measures in place to stop gaps, I guess, column to address those issues.
Great. Thank you for your help. I don't know if you had anything else, Veronica.
You're muted, Veronica.
Thank you. I guess my only other question was email. Has that been rectified?
I believe so, that we created a generic account that all emails previously addressed to water department users were then sent to this one email for them to be reassigned, because again, it was per the town and the water department. I'm not sure how to phrase that the connection between the two environments, networks, and everything was severed, including email. So they went with a new email domain or whatever they did. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, that's okay.
But that's what we did to resolve that issue.
Just so that they can get emails from the town that go out. So, okay.
Great. Well, thank you, Brad. Appreciate the update and all the work that you've done.
Thank you. Everybody's been you've been a great group to work with. We appreciate your support. I guess I want to say finally that this is a never-ending process. It's always a one-upsmanship, and we continue to stay on top of things to keep your environment safe, and perhaps most importantly, ensure that we can recover regardless of the circumstances.
Great. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Enjoy your night. Happy Thanksgiving too.
Take care.
Bye. All right. We are a little early. I don't know if Kevin is on.
Mr. Pecos, are you on with us? He's not signed in yet. We do have 15 minutes before his appointment.
Okay. Let's skip over that for a minute and go to the appointments and take care of those first, if you don't mind. So 3.1, discuss update audit committee appointments. What do you got here, Jim?
Just that Veronica raised the point that the posting we had last year didn't include all of the tasks of the committee. Didn't include the fact that they would be reviewing and recommending the hiring of the auditing firm. So that should be up on the website now and on the board after the last meeting, but no takers as of yet to bring before you.
Okay. All right. Thank you for doing that. 3.2, appoint Kevin Smith to the Town Properties Committee. Can I get a motion there, please?
I move that we appoint Kevin Smith to the Town Properties Committee for effective November 17th, 2020 to June 30th, 2021.
And I'll second that. Any discussion here?
I don't have any.
No. Does this, just a question, does this round it out, Jim?
No, I don't believe we still have the highway, Veronica, right?
Well, Kevin, I think in the past was the highway department person, or is he an at-large?
He's at-large.
He's being appointed as an at-large
so
member.
we're still the highway position down.
Okay, so that's it. All right. Okay, all those in favor?
Veronica Kell, yes.
Wayne Miller, yes. 3-3 appoints Stephen D'Amato as the constable. I know this was from the last meeting. We were just waiting for input from Jay. Is Jay on? I saw his name in here.
One of the things I came across is it's going to take a little bit more time than what we've gotten so far. It does include a background investigation that's the appointing authorities, responsibility. But if asked, the police chief is to assist, and that comes from general law. So, and it does go a little bit more deep than a cursory review. So I certainly have to do a more conventional background. So it may take.
Okay, so we're not. This is a little ways out then.
Can I ask some questions on this? Because I knew nothing about constables and figured I would look at Mass General Law and other things. Do we have a policy and procedure in place for appointing constables?
Not that I'm aware of, no. I haven't seen one.
Pardon me?
I have not seen one. No.
Okay.
In the list of
because what I saw is exactly what Chief Sartell just said, but I couldn't find it formally. I saw where the selectmen, the police chief, and town council should set policies of how to hire and regulate and to provide oversight. And it also said there should be an application process and the ability to run background checks for applicants. And I agree with Chief Sartell. This is going to take a little bit longer, and we might want to.
Yeah, I just add that to our list of policy. Add that to our policy list discussion. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I hope you're keeping a list.
I am.
Okay. Because I haven't been. I've done all the ones I wanted to do, so.
It's getting longer every meeting. Okay.
Okay, so we'll pass over that one until further notice.
Do we need to make a formal motion for that, or can we just pass over?
We just passed over the last time.
Okay.
Okay, what time is it? Still got some time. So moving on 4.1, authorize the town administrator to sign the contract for the town common sidewalks. Oh, okay. Jim, are we?
You have in your packets a copy of the contract with TAMS, a corporation out of Worcester. They were the lowest responsive bidder, and they are anxious to get to work. So the commissioners have forwarded that as the recommendation. The procurement file is complete. So it's just a matter of execution of the contract. So it could be you out of session. It could be me, whatever your pleasure, but we just want to get it done tonight.
Just a question is, when would this start?
They're waiting to hear from me first thing tomorrow morning, and they'll mobilize and be on site.
Oh, because they can do it now.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just concerned about the, laying concrete in the cold in the ground.
I saw in the contract that everything isn't filled in exactly. But what I did see was under number 6, term of contract and time for performance, it says that this will be completed on or before December 15th.
That's the expectation,
is that correct?
Yes.
Oh. Okay.
Okay.
I'm looking to see if I had anything else.
I know we've been waiting a long time to get this done, so I'm kind of excited to get this completed. And
I am too. I was wondering. I thought I saw 25,000 budgeted in the budget. This is for 69,400. Was that part of the budget that we approved at town meeting in July?
There was a grant received from the state government, and then there was a local appropriation to make up the total. So the 25 was the local contribution.
Okay.
Can I get a motion then, Veronica?
I move that the Board of Selectmen sign the contract out of session.
And I'll second that. I have no problem with that either. So all those in favor?
Veronica Kell, yes.
Wayne Miller, yes. I'll stop by and sign it tomorrow.
Excellent.
I can do the same.
Okay, great. 4.2, authorize the town administrator to sign the agreement for the website
Mr.
design.
Chairman, the same would hold true here. If it's your pleasure to have the board sign, there is a limit by bylaw of $5,000 for the administrator to sign. This will be $6,000. So without your authorization, I wouldn't be able to sign it. But if you're coming in to sign the sidewalk one,
Yeah, just get it done.
So this will be, I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
This will be for the redesign of the website, and they are on standby again for a call tomorrow morning to let them know that this has been approved and will be executed. They have their contact person ready to reach out to you, Veronica, as the board's contact for the redesign. Their expectation is to have the work completely billed by December 31st and Q1 be up and operational. So that'll be something depending on with the holidays before us, how much can actually physically get done for the launch. But that's something that they're anticipating having a conversation in more detail with you about, Veronica, once we have that,
Okay.
that first.
So my question was on the statement of work. I kept looking for the statement of work, and is that correct?
That's it. Yep.
Okay. All right. So, yeah. So do we need a motion?
Yep.
Motion to approve the contract and have the select board execute out of session.
I move that we sign the contract for Civic Plus out of session for the agreement for website.
I'll second
redesign.
that. Any other thing else? All those in favor?
Veronica Kell, yes.
Wayne Miller, yes. Great. I see we have Kevin in now. So can we skip back to 2.2?
Sure, why don't we? Kevin, is anyone else going to be joining you from NFP or? Excellent. Okay.
Right. Kevin.
Well, hi there, members of the board. Jim, great to be with you all. So the purpose of this briefing is to give the board some idea of a potential opportunity that you have that could prove very lucrative with respect to saving you all some money on your employee health insurance program. So I've given a PowerPoint to Carolyn, and hopefully that's been forwarded to you. But to be honest with you, I'm going to not stick strictly to the PowerPoint. I'm going to talk off a different PowerPoint and some notes that I have, which should make the conversation a bit more succinct because I know your time is valuable. And so I'm going to try to rattle through this thing in 10 or 15 minutes. And then please interrupt me along the way with any questions that you might have.
Sounds good.
So NFP, just a couple of slides about who we are. We've been your insurance advisor for about 3-4 years now. The company provides advisory services and brokerage services for health insurance and LTD, STD, a bunch of other products for about 100 plus cities and towns in Massachusetts. So close to a third of the cities and towns in Massachusetts. Company's about 50,000 corporate clients all over the world, 4,800 employees in Massachusetts, 400 clients, over 100 municipal clients, and 4 JPAs. There are lots of folks that we provide advice to in your area: Townsend, Dunstable, Ashburnham, Westminster, Templeton, Ashburnham, Westminster Regional School District, and Pepperell. Why do I mention that? So that you will hopefully know that we are experts in municipal insurance, and therefore, hopefully my comments tonight will resonate with you and make some sense. I apologize for the brief commercial, but I know that you may not be familiar with who NFP is, and so that's sort of obligatory. So, situation right now with communities in your area, Townsend is a member of MIA, the Mass Interlocal Insurance Association. You have what we refer to in the industry as a legacy plan, or a plan that has no deductibles and low copays. Dunstable, your neighbor, who's also a client, is also a MIA member, has the Blue Cross Blue Shield benchmark plan with a $500, $1,000 deductible. Benchmark refers to the Municipal Health Reform Act, which is the plan which is most heavily enrolled in the GIC by state employees and the local employees that are insured there. Is a member of the Minuteman Ashoba Joint PO and a Harvard Pilgrim HMO, all with the $300, $900 deductible. And since this presentation was prepared, the town of Templeton has now been added to the mix, has expressed an interest in potentially joining with y'all for collaborative purchasing. And they've got, they have the same plan design as you folks do. There's a chart in the presentation that shows the plan designs between Dunstable, Townsend, and all together. I'll let you peruse that at your leisure. That's suffice to say that we've looked at those plan designs, the benefit structure, and the four communities are very, very compatible from the point of view of having a very similar plan design. It's not identical, but it's very similar. There are some challenges. For Dunstable, it is a small subscriber base, less than 50 employees. They're under 100 subscribers. They cannot access the competitive marketplace because when you're under 100 subscribers, the carrier, and in this case MIA, will not provide claims data. Townsend is in a identical situation, small subscriber base, under 100, can't get claims data, and so you are unable to fully access the competitive marketplace. Because you have no deductibles, you face the prospect of very high future premiums. Pepperell, same thing, and Templeton as well. Small subscriber base under 100, can't get at that data. Now, why is that important? It's important because if you can't get claims data, then we cannot competitively bid your health insurance program. Health insurance is just like any other commodity that you purchase. I don't care if it's paper supplies or copier ink. It's a product, and it is best procured on a competitive basis because any carrier, whether it's Blue Cross Blue Shield, Harvard Pilgrim, Fallon, et cetera, naturally, if they think you're a captive, i.e. you never go out to the marketplace, and they don't sharpen their pencil on your premium, you're sort of considered somebody, an entity that's not going to be competitively procuring, and so they don't need to provide you with their best pricing. MIA does the same thing. They are a collaborative of cities and towns, and they tend to be very competitive. They set money aside every year for competitive quoting with communities that are bidding or new communities that are soliciting a quote from MIA. But if you're a long-term member of MIA and you're under 100, MIA won't give you the claims data and you really can't go out to the marketplace. Now that's a significant problem. Moreover, communities, there is an operative theory, if you will, in health insurance, which is referred to in the industry as geographic bias. And it simply says this: an appendectomy in Boston is far more costly than an appendectomy in a rural or suburban setting. I think it's axiomatic and everybody understands fully that as you get closer to the large metropolitan areas, teaching hospitals, large general hospitals are much more expensive healthcare settings, pound for the same procedure, than smaller hospitals in a rural and a suburban setting. Now, why is that important? Because MIA, which is predominantly members inside of 495 and 128, the employees and the healthcare costs for those members is heavily oriented to Boston. I mean, wouldn't we all, if we could jump on the T and go into Mass General or Beth Israel, wouldn't we all prefer to get our healthcare there if we could? And folks that are proximal and from a transportation point of view very close do indeed do that. Why is that important? Because the healthcare costs for Dunstable, Townsend, Pepperell, and Templeton, and all communities that are more rural, further from Boston, tend to be lower. So if you're a member of a large trust, the majority of whose members are oriented toward Boston and get their health care there, the chances are pretty good that you are paying a subsidy, you have lower health care costs, and you're paying a subsidy to the larger pool and to the members which have higher health care costs. Now, as it stands today, I cannot prove that to you because I can't get at your claims data. But indicative of what I'm saying to you, the town of Acushnet, also a Maya member, hired us 3 years ago to take a look at their claims. They are over 100, so we could get their claims data. They had a loss ratio, meaning for every dollar they pay in premium, they had about 80 cents going out in claims. That's called a 80% loss ratio. Generally speaking, a loss ratio of around 90% is considered break even in the industry. So if you have a loss ratio lower, what it means is you're paying more premium than you should. Once we identified that for Acushnet, and because they were over 100, we were able to get full and robust claims data. We took them out to the marketplace in a RFP. They received an offer from Maya for a 3.5% reduction in a status quo plan, no change to their plan design, but a 3.5% reduction in premium. Harvard Pilgrim bid negative 6.5. We later bid their dental, and because the dental plan that Acushnet selected was the partner with Harvard Pilgrim, Acushnet received something called a bundling discount, same as you would on your homeowners and your auto, and another point was taken off. So Acushnet renewed for about a negative 7.5. Now, that's indicative of the fact that Acushnet, very similar to your community and your neighbors, is very, very far from the flagpole, if you will, of the predominant number of Maya clients, Maya members, and so their claims were indeed lower on a cost per capita basis than the member group they were in. And when we took them out to bid, they experienced a very substantial savings. Now, I can't promise you that's the case, but I can tell you that it's very likely. So what do we do about that? Well, we put you together into a purchasing collaborative with communities that are nearby so that you can then be more than 100 subscribers. And because you're over 100 subscribers, we can then access claims data, and then we can do a lot of good things for you. So how does the JPA provide issue resolution? Well, the first thing is it allows you to be more than a 100-member group by combining with other communities, and that gets you that claims data. Second thing that it does, without claims data, we can't analyze where cost-saving opportunities might be achieved. So, for instance, one of the reports we get when we get full claims data is what hospitals the employees predominantly visit, the top 10 hospitals that they go to. We get a report that says the top 10 DRG codes, the top 10 medical procedures. When we see those things, we can do tailoring of your plan to make plan design changes, which will save both the community money and the employees as well. So for instance, when we look at your top 10 hospitals, we can potentially introduce what's called tiering into your plan, where your communities pay less to go to certain tiered hospitals than to other hospitals. And if it happens to be the case that those tier 1 hospitals that the carrier identifies as tier 1 happen to be the top 5 or 6 hospitals your employees use, then we've got a proverbial win-win that we can do on plan design and save you a substantial amount of money. But we can't do that without that claims data. So the second most important thing with getting the claims data and gathering together in groups is that we can do plan design. We can suggest plan design changes that are very cost savings. Obviously, if we don't have robust claims data, then we can't get the marketplace interested in providing you with competitive quotes. I will tell you that right now, the marketplace is extremely competitive. No matter what carrier you're with, there are other carriers that would like your business. The traditional Massachusetts carriers, Tufts and Harvard, are merging. Fallon is still in the marketplace, Blue Cross, of course, but they're now being joined by new companies, Neighborhood Health Plan, which is the plan of Partners Healthcare, and the national companies, Cigna, Aetna, et cetera, the really giant companies. Everybody thinks Blue Cross is the largest insurer. They're small compared to Cigna and Aetna, who are truly the giants in the industry. And they're moving into Massachusetts and providing competitive quotes. So the world is really changing. Another issue associated with, one way to try to solve the issue with Townsend is to try to take you out to that competitive marketplace and maybe get lucky and find. The problem then becomes, in the short term, you can save money, but you're not in a stable situation because a single community alone under 100 will sooner or later face a downturn in claims. Claims cycle, you can expect 2 or 3 bad years out of every 10. And if you're left as a single community with a downturn in claims, you've got to absorb that risk yourself. Rates go up, and there's only a few employees that are sharing in that risk, whereas if you're in a substantially sized pool, you're sharing that risk with other folks. Same concept as group health insurance at a town level, but now done at a multi-town level. So those are the things that a JPA can really do for you to help you rein in healthcare costs. It's also the case that a JPA keeps decision-making local, because with Maya, with the GIC, decisions are made for you, and you either have to accept those decisions in terms of plan design changes, premium increases, et cetera, or you have to leave those pools. When you form your own pool and you keep it small and very able to respond to changes in the industry, you've got a very agile group. Decisions are made locally, and you can really tailor it to do the best job for your communities and for your employees. And perhaps most importantly of all, we are experiencing a very curious time right now in healthcare, because rates were set for all healthcare plans that began on July 1. Those rates were set back in January, February, and then COVID overtook us in March. COVID has caused a dramatic decrease in claims. If you are a self-insured entity, which all of the JPAs pretty much are, Maya is, the GIC is, and of course the insurance companies themselves are essentially self-insured entities, then you are probably experiencing the benefit of having claims drop dramatically due to people's very logical and very intelligent fear of going into healthcare settings and being exposed to COVID. But those rates are, so all the carriers for the year ending June 30, 2020, reported that they were putting a lot of money into their bottom line, into their trust fund balances because of that phenomenon. Now, of course, COVID is continuing, and that phenomenon is continuing. The GIC just released claims data, and they're running somewhere around 60 or 70% loss ratio. So they're putting a great deal of money into their bottom line. If you are in a JPA, then you have the opportunity to self-insure, where you couldn't possibly consider that as a single community alone. So those are the advantages of a JPA. We took a look at Townsend, Dunstable, Templeton, and Pepperell and found that you are very compatible and you'd be able to form a JPA very successfully. You would go over 100 subscribers. That would give you access to robust claims data next year at this time, because you would organize into a JPA on July 1st, and come this time next year, we'd be able to access that data. It is highly likely, we have had some quiet conversations with some of the carriers and told them on the part of the carriers, if you were to form this group, to give you what we think will be highly competitive bids. It is also the case that Maya, because you four communities, well, actually, I'm sorry, three of the four communities, Townsend, Dunstable, and Templeton are all Maya. Purple is Minuteman Neshoba. But since three of you are Maya clients, Maya would react very negatively to the possibility of losing you. Every year, the Maya board, and I served on the Maya board for a decade. I was chairman of the board for 3 years before I was a town manager, by the way, for 40 plus years before I retired in 2013 and began this second career. So I know how cities and towns function. I know how Maya functions. Maya sets aside a certain amount of money every year to do marketing. And basically, when they feel threatened that they're potentially going to lose a community, they'll use some of that money to make the rate better than it would have otherwise been. So if you folks were to form a JPA, Maya would be very concerned that in a highly competitive marketplace that they might lose you. And the result, we are very, very sure, would be a very aggressive quote from Maya, far better likely than what you would receive if you stayed on your own as a single community still in Maya. So we think that the situation is such that forming into a JPA gives you a unique opportunity to receive health insurance rates for July 1, 2020 that are likely to be much, much better than July 1, 2021, that would be much better than what you could do on your own, and that this is a relatively foolproof way for you to improve your rates and potentially save yourself a great deal of what will be scarce municipal money as we head into this very uncertain budgetary. If you look at the fall 2021, and we can now access the claims data for the group, then we can really do some work for you in suggesting plan design differences that will both make sense for your employees, and which we are very confident they would embrace, and would result potentially in some very significant savings, both for the employees and for the community. And that's really what this is all about. Yeah, there's some short-term savings probably for that 1 year, the first year, July 1, 21 to June 30, 22. But the real potential is for significant savings as you look beyond that when we can access that claims data. So,
okay. Can I ask you some questions then, Kevin?
Sure.
I think that. Thank you for the pitch. Two big ones. Have you presented to the other towns? And
we had a
what's their
preliminary
feedback?
meeting about 2 months ago where we introduced this idea, asked everybody if they were interested, at least interested enough to have us do the preliminary analysis. Everybody said, yep, sure, have nothing to lose, go for it. We did the analysis and we just completed it about 2 weeks ago. It takes time to get all the plan design info and the enrollment data and the census data. And so we got all that done. And what we've been able to conclude is that it looks like a very propitious opportunity for all of you. The next step is to briefing the board, your board tonight. I'll be talking town administrator. We'll follow his guidance on when he'd like us to talk to his board. We've spoken with the town administrator in Dunstable. He reports that his community is absolutely full on board. They're very small and they really do want to collaborate with their neighbors. So he says that both their employees, the Board of Selectmen, and he are all very, very supportive, provided we can give them a green light that we've got compatible partners for them. So the next step, if the board indicates your interest in going to that next step, is to get together with the town administrators and or treasurers, whoever else you folks would like to have in a meeting, talk about exactly how we would put this together, put the tentative joint purchase arrangement in front of you to have a conversation about. The joint purchase arrangement, there's an administrative agreement which puts it together. I'm sure you're all familiar with regionalizing lots of things, health agents and veterans agents and things like that. Well, this is an intermunicipal agreement that does essentially the same thing. but it's an agreement that's authorized by its own law, Mass General Law, Chapter 32B. I believe it's Section 12. So the agreement provides the bones of how the three communities and potentially four would cooperate together. So we would present the representatives of the communities with a draft of that. They would have to do some work amending it to make it tailored to what they would like to have. I've personally written 5 of them, more than anybody else in the state. So I've got a library of these agreements that, and I can put together one that I think would be probably 90% there, so it doesn't take a ton of editing. We've got the experience of managing 5 JPAs, so we've got a pretty good idea of what your folks would want. And then once that agreement is put together in the draft level, it would go back to the boards of selectmen for review.
Okay. Big question. What's it cost for you to do this?
Doesn't cost you anything. You're already paying for it. Each of the communities pays us a fee for service annually. When we're not doing this kind of work, we're doing a lot of other work on your health plan, which we've been doing for you for a while now, putting together ideas, cost-saving ideas, introducing them to the employees. Last year, we took your package out for what we call a mini bid, where we basically put together the data that we can, because we don't have that full claims data. We go out to the marketplace, we say, hey, is anybody interested in providing Townsend with a quote? And we got some very aggressive action. Unfortunately, that happened right dead in the middle of the onset of COVID. So here we were in March and April last year with an incredible offer in hand from a couple carriers, Harvard Pilgrim and Fallon. And unfortunately, in order to show those kinds of quotes to the employees, it's imperative that the employees be very involved, and there was no practical way to do it. So we were really not able to engage the employees, and ultimately, it was unfortunately was a victim of COVID, like so many other things. So we weren't able to do it. But we've gone back to those same carriers and basically said to them, if we go out to the marketplace this year, and we've got 2 or 3 or 4 communities, would you give us those same aggressive quotes? And the answer that's come back is, we'll give you even more aggressive quotes potentially. So we've got a beautiful situation here where we can tell you it's a virtual guarantee that you as a group will do much better than you can do on your own. So this is a very safe proposal. And we can tell you that you will have the opportunity, more than likely, I don't like to make guarantees until I have the RFP results in hand, which happens in January, but we can give you a virtual guarantee that we can get you a negative quote, meaning a reduction in your current healthcare costs without any change to your plan design.
Well, I don't know about you, Veronica, but I think this is a slam dunk, and I'd like to move forward.
So the next step is to get together with the managers and whatever staff that they would like to bring, and basically outline exactly how we put this together and show them the intermunicipal agreement, get the administrators to all say, we think this intermunicipal agreement works for us, and then it comes back to the boards. Probably, I hate to do this to you in December, but it would be good to do it in December, because once we identify which communities are in fact in and which boards green light it, then we can begin to put the RFP together to get it out to the marketplace in January. Maya gives their quotes in mid-February, so we want them involved. Frankly, we think the best would be from Maya for you to continue to be insured through Maya for the next year, because your employees know Maya's Blue Cross. It would be very comfortable. They wouldn't be threatened by this new idea of what's this JPA thing, because for them, absolutely nothing would change. Except we think their premium will go down dramatically. Next year, and over the course of that year, we can work with the employees to introduce the concept of bidding and potentially changing carriers, because it's entirely conceivable you could get a reduction again next year. That's how intense the marketplace is right now. So.
Good. All right, Veronica, if you don't have anything else, I think this is an easy one. I guess we just direct Jen to go.
Thank you. I have questions. I guess What's the timeline? When do we have to commit to this? I mean, if we tell you, sure, go out and get these quotes, when do we as a town have to commit to, yes, we're doing this, no, we're not? Do we have the opportunity to compare what we have now to what this gets us?
It's a kind of a chicken and an egg problem, because request a quote as an individual community, see how you do, and then later form the collaborative and go back out to the marketplace and now see how you do as a collaborative.
That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm saying, look at what the quote you get as a collaborative.
So what you have to do is you have to form the group, because the carriers, Blue Cross, Harvard Pilgrim, et cetera, will not quote a potential group. They will not do it. They will only quote a JPA that is actually in existence. The existence of a JPA is constituted by the signing of an intermunicipal agreement by one or more communities, who then, as an entity, authorize the statute to buy their insurance together, which the insurance companies will provide a quote to. After you sign the intermunicipal agreement, we've got a great deal of work in taking all of your data, your census information on all your employees and dependents or limited claims. We take all that data and we put it into a big RFP, which is a gigantic document, frankly. And then we go out to the marketplace with that document. So if the board, if whatever absolute latest, early January, that's the latest you could do it, and you sign the municipal agreement, then we put that RFP together. It takes us about 2 to 3 weeks to put it together. We go out to the marketplace at the end of January in time to get the Maya quote as part of it. We call them and we tell them, they'll be along with Blue Cross, Harvard, Aetna, Cigna, et cetera, all the carriers. And then probably they need about 3 weeks to do for their underwriting to do the quote. They come back with a quote in February, probably late February. We analyze the quotes, get them on a piece of paper, and then we meet with the administrators together and we say, here's the result. Administrators look at it, and then whatever action each individual community needs to take, you take it to award. But typically, the decision what carrier to award is really driven by the comfort level of your employees. Saying, so for instance, let's say Fallon gave you you'd want to know before saying, yep, great, let's go with Fallon. You'd want to know that your employees were comfortable with that decision, because they'd be leaving Blue Cross and going to Fallon. And while people like me will tell you that today, insurance companies are not what they used to be. They're basically bill payers. That's their function. So whether you go with Fallon, whether you go with Cigna, whether you go with Aetna, whether you go with Blue Cross, really doesn't matter, because you're just matching up your benefits with your bills that come in and paying the bill according to your plan. Employees still have the impression, and it's because of advertising, frankly, that Blue Cross is the gold standard, because that's how they advertise and that's what they call themselves. So what I'm hoping would be the case for this first bid for July 1/21 would be Maya would bid you very aggressively. And now we know for a fact, because we do bidding of Maya clients all the time. We bid you last year as a Maya client. And the result of that was a quote from Fallon, which was, and from Harvard, which was much better than Maya. So we know for a fact that when we put pressure on Maya, they will produce a better result. So what we're hoping is that bid result will produce with this new JPA is a very aggressive quote from Maya, and you will stay with Maya, because your employees, your employees probably don't know what Maya is, but they know what Blue Cross is. And Maya only offers Blue Cross products. It's an exclusive arrangement. So if everything stayed status quo for the next year, Your employees would be happy. You'd have the same plan. You'd be paying a lot less premium, but everything would be the same otherwise. That's the perfect environment. That gives us a year to start talking to the employees in meetings and saying to them through some education, we're going to do this again next year with a bid, but next year you may get an aggressive bid and you may change carriers. I don't want to rule out the possibility that another carrier like a Fallon or a Harvard would come in with a very aggressive bid, the same as happened in Acushnet last July 1st. And your employees and you might say, you know, why wait? Let's take the aggressive bid right now. I'm just saying that all things being equal, it would be great if we could put the JPA together, have very little change in terms of what your employee sees, and then really come back and attack the market with full claims data next year.
Okay, so I guess for me, it's I guess I'm not ready to say, let's do this now.
Sure.
I would want a couple weeks to think about this and get my questions together. To me, what I saw was that, okay, so maybe a lower premium, but they will then have a deductible when now we have a zero deductible?
No. Status quo plan design means no change in your current plan at all.
For the first year.
That's correct.
But after that, there will be.
There wouldn't be any plan design change in the second year either, unless you decided you wanted to have one. There is
that's up to the employees, though, correct?
Well,
no.
it's really.
Well, what do they want? I mean,
the employees make the recommendation, but the employees don't make the decision.
Right. I would want to know what the employees want, I think. There's also the question of what does this do with doctors? I mean, I assume everybody has their doctors, and this is always the question. So do I have to change doctors? And that probably depends on what insurance the doctors take. But I don't know about Fallon.
Here's the interpretive question. Harvard Pilgrim and Blue Cross, their provider networks are almost identical.
Right,
Fallon,
but not Fallon.
Fallon, you are in the part of the state where Fallon is the strongest. Fallon is based in Worcester, and you are in the part of the state where Fallon is the strongest. Their network is essentially identical. There's a small bit of fall off, but not much. But we do what's called a disruption analysis. We have, let's say Fallon gave you a great bid, or Aetna or Cigna. We would get the list from your current carrier, Blue Cross, of all your primary care physicians. We would cause the new company that you're considering to provide a disruption analysis, and we would identify any doctors that would be lost, and we would report that to their employees impacted. The carrier would then go to the doctor and ask them to enroll, and the likelihood is about a 90+% success rate in having the doctor enroll, because when we say to the doctor, Townsend, Pepperell, Dunstable is about to change from Blue Cross to Fallon. 5 employees are going to lose their primary care physician. That could potentially mean that they lose your business. Would you enroll in the plan? It's pretty much a no-brainer for those doctors. So our experience suggests that nobody ever loses their doctor.
Okay. I just have to ask, you've been our, if I got this right, we've contracted with you. We're already your clients.
Yes.
And we've been. So why now with this? I mean, like, why didn't we do this years ago if it's such a good deal?
I think because you've been enjoying some very low rates and some very good renewals that we frankly have accomplished for you. I think you had a 0, if I recall, last year, no increase. Jim, help me on this because I don't have it in front of me, but I believe because of the competitive action we generated last year, you ended up staying with Maya, frankly, because it all happened in the middle of COVID, and you got a 0 renewal. I think you had a very low renewal the year before.
Negative 3.48.
Thank you. So you already had a negative renewal last year. The year before, I think you had the 0. Dunstable, we work with the employees and we introduced a plan design change, which they unanimously endorsed. And they had a significant reduction in premium. So you've been having a lot of success. And frankly, we really didn't look at the JPA idea because you've been having so much success on your own. You can't count on continuing to have that success on your own. You might, but we can virtually guarantee you're going to have better success if you collaborate as a group than you're going to have on your own as you go forward. So the opportunity is one that's there now, and it's something that the managers, Jim, Brian and Dunstable, Adam and Templeton, and Andy and Pepperell, asked us to take a look at this. And so we said, sure. We've been working on this since, well, I guess we took a quick look at it last year. The renewals were so good, nobody really had an appetite to pursue it. And then as we got into the summer of this year, everybody asked us to look at it again. So we've been working on it for a while. But that's kind of how it rolled out.
Part of this, if I could, to you, Veronica, is, you can only chicken little. The sky is falling so many times. And quite candidly, what NFP has done for us with Maya is created the, hey, Maya, the sky is about to fall because we've got these other opportunities out in the marketplace. And Maya has used some of the money that Kevin mentioned that they hold aside to buy business to remain competitive, to buy down our rate. Exactly. There's only so many times we threaten to go out on our own as a single community that they're going to continue to buy down the rate. Eventually, they're going to say, you know, you've threatened this before, you've not gone out before, so we're not going to drop the rate again. Additionally, Kevin mentioned that in a 10-year period, you know, you're likely to see 3 high claim years. We've not seen that, so those are coming for us eventually. So I think to Kevin's more global point, we've had a good run, but there's no guarantee that that good run is going to continue. And in fact, Jim, you're quite right. There's pretty much the opposite guarantee, which is it's not going to continue. Now, it could happen next year. You could have 3 more years of great experience, but eventually, statistically, any group, the law of numbers says, eventually claims are going to go south on you, and you got to prepare for that eventuality. When Maya buys down your rate, as they have probably been doing the last 2 years in response to the competitive pressure we put on them, they've artificially reduced your rate. Any carrier can do that. Maya's not the only one that does it. All the carriers do it from time to time. Problem is you look at the next year, they've got to make that up eventually because they've artificially depressed your rate. So eventually the chickens come home to roost. And the only way to stop that, one way to stop that, is this JPA idea, which will give you another couple good, probably another couple very, very good years, exceptional years, frankly. And then once you've got the JPA and you're in this group, you've got good insulation going forward, you know, as you look at claims. So it's a good opportunity.
And this isn't just this isn't finalizing. This is just starting the exploratory. We haven't formed anything yet.
Yeah, all Jim asked me to do with the board tonight was just expose you to the idea, let you know that we're looking at this and we think it's a great opportunity. And if the board wants to continue to see us explore it, the next step is to put a joint purchase agreement together and get it so the administrators all say, yep, we think this thing works, and then bring it back to the board. And that's when you'd have to take some action. That would be either in mid-December or, as I say, very early January. We really prefer December because we need time to put the bid specification, the RFP together and get it out to the marketplace in January for you. So, you know, there's not a huge amount of time to do this, but there's enough right now.
So tonight is just here's the idea.
Yeah, exactly.
And by our second meeting in December, you would need to have a yes or no, we're going in, we're in, or we're not in.
Yes, Jim, I think.
And if we're not in, what happens?
We bid saying you heard about the idea. So I wanted to present the idea first to give you the time to think about it. And then, yes, what we could do, if you would like, is we probably don't need more than, you know, honestly, getting the 4 managers together prior to Thanksgiving is not impossible, but it's going to be challenging. But let's assume we could do
prior to Thanksgiving, like next week,
Yes.
Thursday?
As I said, it would be challenging. But my heart beats forever optimistic. So let's assume we could do it and we could get an agreement pulled together, because frankly, this 8, 9, 10-page agreement, there's really only 3 or 4 decision points in it. The rest of it is all boilerplate. That it's just the basic agreement that everybody else has. If in an hour or two we can resolve those issues, then it is certainly possible that by the board's first meeting in December, we could show you the agreement, let you go through it, answer questions, have your level of review, what you would prior to Christmas. Yes, because, now if there was some reason why you couldn't and you needed that first week of January, we can do that. But then after that, we've absolutely got to get on with the RFP. So if you weren't able to make the decision by then, either there wouldn't be enough towns in it and the JPA wouldn't form, or it would form without Townsend. I mean, that's
And if it did form without Townsend, could we jump in the next year?
Not necessarily, because at that point, the group would have formed. They would have had that rate reduction, which we think will be very substantial. So now their rates will be likely significantly below yours. Would they take you in under those circumstances? Maybe. I wouldn't say no. I would just say it becomes an added impediment.
Well, I'd like to see the proposal first. So I'd like to at least look at that to see where we're at and what it looks like, because obviously we're not voting on that tonight. So I think it's worth at least looking at.
I think it's very much in the category of you got nothing to lose.
Right.
And you've got a potential enormous win. So
yeah, that's where I'm at with this.
Can you provide us numbers for another JPA of what the towns were paying first and what they're paying now, and how that affects a family? If you're saying there will be no deductibles on what we have.
Plan design is identical to your current plan design. There'll be no change to the plan design.
For the first year or for all years?
Well, that's entirely up to you. You decide on your plan design. The JPA doesn't.
See, we don't. I think the value there to make the distinction is the GIC, which is, a big joint purchase agreement. They, someplace in a darkened room, make plan design changes. You, as one community in the GIC, don't get any say. You get told this is the new plan design and you have to accept it. That's not what this is.
That's correct.
The document that Kevin is talking about creating, the actual intermunicipal agreement, would have the steps about how the thing is administered and whether or not each community has the ability to maintain their own status quo plan, or whether by a majority of those you have a consolidation of plan design. That's all spelled out in that agreement, but we retain local control. So what Kevin is saying is, in year one, he would recommend rolling out the concept of a JPA, but ideally staying exact same plan with Maya, with Blue Cross. Nothing changes for the employee. So on the backside of how it's being paid for and managed, it's a JPA. Employees see a little bit of a discount, but it doesn't change. The next year, we have a whole year to then engage the employees, who are all unionized, in a conversation about, what do you want to do? You want to stay where we are? Do you want to look at other plan design? Do you want to see about entertaining the quotes? What does a $300 deductible do in terms of, that money going out of your pocket, but the savings every week in your check? We have a whole year to have those discussions. And ultimately, the unions carry a big stick in this process, but only to the point of a recommendation. At the end of the day, the decision-making authority is vested in the two of you.
Right.
Select.
Everything Jim said is absolutely accurate. And I would add to that, by way of example, the Gateway Health Group, which is 3 towns and 3 school districts, I believe. It might be 4 towns and 3 school districts down Carver, Lakeville, etc. They've got 8 plan designs, 4 HMOs and 4 PPOs. And communities that are a member of the group can pick from those 8 plan designs. They can pick any plan design that they'd like to have. Now, once the community picks the plan design, then the employees choose from the options that the community picks. But it's entirely up to the community which options they want to pick. And in terms of which plans that the JPA offers, that's up to the JPA. That's up to the collective boards of governing boards and board of directors of the JPA. So it's really completely locally controlled. It's up to you.
We can look at the agreement.
Okay. Do you need a vote, Jim, or just the?
No. I mean, hearing no opposition to at least taking the next step, which is getting a draft in your hands, I think we're good.
Okay. All right, Kevin, thank you very much for your time.
All right. Great chatting with you. Thanks, all. Stay well and safe.
I'll look to hear from you, KP.
All righty. Thanks, Jim. Bye-bye.
All right, let's move on to 4.3, discussion winter shared streets and spaces grant application process. Jim,
You want to take the lead conversation on this one, Veronica? Because I know it's something we're very excited about.
Well, I am excited about it. I think we should put in an application. I was wondering if we still have Weston and Sampson working with us on this, or no? Didn't they help out with the last one?
They did, and they will again. So if we can come together with a short list of ideas, they'll do the graphics. I mean, I did the writing. They did all of the engineering graphic work, but we'll still be able to do the same thing. Okay,
so I think just learning from what we learned after being rejected from the other one, I think that it would be great to have a skating rink somewhere. I mean, they're looking for outdoor things, and we can't place make. So I wouldn't put it behind the town hall on that field. I haven't even really looked at that to see how flat that is. But in any event, I would put it either on the common or the Spalding Field, one or the other. And if the sidewalks are done by December 15th, then it shouldn't be an issue if it were on the common. If I would also like to see some sort of directional signage and sidewalks to get to, if you look at the center of town, there are places that you can go to snowshoe, walkable from the center of town. There's Howard Park. There's Old Meeting House Park at the top of Old Meeting House Road up Highland Street. You can go down to the Fish and Wildlife property and the Land Trust property that's south of town. On the other side of the river, there's access, and from Pheasant Ridge. So there are a lot of places that you can get to from the center of town, walking or biking, although I don't know how good biking would be in the winter to get to these locations, but signage to point out where they are. If we're doing a skating rink, we should include funds for maintaining that rink. It needs to be scraped and water put on it pretty frequently. Those sorts of things. So that's what I'm looking at. And it has to be temporary. It can't be something that then you can take down a skating rink. It would be nice to have permanent signage. We could also include funding for maps of Old Meeting House Park, Howard Park. People don't know where these places are. Right. So, and sidewalks, along, if we're going with Spalding Field, that sidewalk up to Spalding could be included.
Yep.
Or up along Highland Street, when you get along the cemetery and beyond. It's not that far.
Okay, so if we package the grant application as the skating rink location to be determined between the two areas that you referenced, both of which would require the approval of the Board of Cemetery and Parks Commissioners.
Correct.
They have care, custody, control of those properties. So skating rink there, signage and mapping for our trail parks that would have the recreational opportunities of either snowshoeing or cross-country skiing.
Correct.
And then try to work in the sidewalk piece from here over to the rink. It's at Spalding.
Yeah, and also signage to parking, like the Jeff Street parking or parking along the common.
Yep.
Painting the crosswalks in the center of town, because people would be using those, I would think. And then anything else anybody can come up with would be good. So that's my thought. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah, with a cap of $300,000, and if you look at what was funded the last time, not many projects actually hit that $300,000 mark. So right. I think the more discreet we keep this, the more tightly tailored, which looks like this, the rink, the signage, a piece of sidewalk if we go that way, maybe some of the painting. I think we're going to be at a pretty modest but significant for us project.
I know the first deadline is December 4th. Do you remember the second deadline? I don't have that in front of me.
I don't, but I don't see any reason we can't hit December 4th. We know the structure of the application now. This isn't a lot of heavy lifting here in terms of how this is scoped out with what we've just talked about. Mm-hmm. I know that I've had some commentary from some other folks that lines up with this identically. So, yeah.
And we could mark bike lanes along, but if you're snowshoeing, you're not going to do biking. So, that was another thing that they mentioned in there. But anyway.
I don't know if we lost Wayne.
I don't see him. Did he go away?
That's a quorum issue, so let's try to reach him. Hey, you dropped off the screen here. Oh, okay. What's that? Do you have the Zoom app on your phone? Okay. Okay. All right. We'll take a recess for a little bit here until we see you pop back up. All right. Thanks. His internet dropped, so he's trying to get back in now. So we'll just take a couple minute recess if you don't mind, and he should pop back on.
All right.
Moment.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, you're back, and Jim just stepped away, so we'll just wait a minute until he gets back too.
Okay.
Ah, there he is.
I don't know what happened.
All right. So if, Wayne, I don't know how much of that you heard before it dropped, but do you have any opposition to us marching forward with a scope for the winter spaces grant that would involve, presuming approval from the Parks Commissioners, skating rink and ability to maintain it? If it's in front of Spalding on the Upper Common, then looking at sidewalk work between here and there, and then signage for any of the other opportunities we have in town whether it's Howard Park or Old Meeting House, where people could do either cross-country skiing or snowshoeing, and a map showing how to get between points for those opportunities.
Nope, let's see what it does.
It might be nice if we go with the skating rink to put benches for people to sit at.
Sure.
Or something like that around it.
Can't count on snow bankings.
For putting on skates or drinking hot chocolate.
Well, if you look at last year, you can't even count on ice. So
this is true.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see what it looks
So
like.
we'll, on the staff level, we'll work with Weston and Sampson, and we'll scope out this, get a draft for you for your next meeting.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Okay, excellent.
All right, 4-4 license agreement for senior center. I reviewed it. I talked with Adam a little bit about it. It seems pretty boilerplate to me. I don't have any issue moving on with it.
I of course also sent questions to Adam, and I do have some questions. I'm not ready to sign this yet. I guess Exhibit C, which was the description of the project description, and maybe, do you want, I don't know, what's the best way for me to do this? My major question was the term of the agreement, number 5. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Exhibit C was the other piece.
I guess if you're still waiting for questions from Adam, then I guess we'll pass over this one.
No, Adam responded. I got my responses back from him, but these are questions that I think we need to provide. So I had asked him, could we get a copy of Exhibit C, the complete project's description? He also told me that there was an annotated version of the license agreement. He asked me if I had seen the annotated version, that he had notes in it.
I have not.
And do you have that?
I've not seen
Jim?
that, no.
Huh, okay. He said, hopefully you're able to see the annotations I made alongside the text of the agreement I circulated. And I never saw any annotations.
Have you opened it and tracked changes to see if his changes are actually there?
Did I get a doc version, or did I get a PDF version?
As I sit here,
Not a
but
PDF
I'll find out.
version. I did get a doc version.
Okay, I'll make certain that he sends the doc version out so you can track changes, see what those annotations are.
Okay, so I wanted to see Exhibit C, which is a description of the site and the project. There was also a question about in answering my question about the terms of the agreement, he referenced a construction sequence, which might be nice to see. As far as the term goes, I would be pretty specific about that. So I have some language I might want in there. The other thing I have, the termination. So this is number 5. Number 5, the
Sorry. My internet just kicked on.
So you're talking double. Hey, this is back. I would want the term, after a certain amount of time after permitting. So I have some language. How do we do that? Do I say right now, or do we do this at the next meeting? Or do I send what I think I would like to see?
I think what we've done in the past is, we vote to say yes with the following.
Okay, I'm not ready to do that yet. So I would do.
I knew that you had some questions because you said that you had some questions, but I'm kind of flying in the dark as to what those details are, because I've neither seen your questions nor Adam's responses. So
right, I got Adam's responses about 4:30, 5 o'clock today. So I sent them to him last week.
If you want to forward that string along, I can get the answers to the things that you have, get them rolled into the agreement, and then cycle that back around to make certain that everything that you're looking to have accounted for is accounted for.
I mean, I want it specific as to, it says either party hereto may terminate this agreement by giving written notice to the other at least 24 hours. And I'm imagining a huge hole in the wall of the senior center, which I would like to avoid. All right, let me put my language in, and you can send it to, circulate it, and we'll discuss at the next meeting. How do we get Exhibit C, though? This is so really it's the termination, number 5, the term, where I have things I want in there. And then it's also Exhibit C. I would like Exhibit C to be written out. And so do we have that? Adam's words to me were, I don't have Exhibit C. You'll recall that I had asked for both a description of the site and of the project several times before I drafted the agreement. Neither was provided. So
we don't have a description of the project, with the exception of the letter that we have received from the donor, which is very generic, very 10,000-foot view, in addition to the senior center building. And this is part of the concern that I have had all along, is any effort we make to identify in detail or codify in detail what the project is could be read as us having a role in defining what the project is, which we're not supposed to.
Well, Exhibit C is referenced in here, and it would be nice to have something in Exhibit C, I guess is what I'm saying. Because right now we have an empty Exhibit C.
I agree. And when you had sent your questions to Adam last week, if I had been copied on it, I could have spent the time between then and now, instead of live trying to make the sausage, in real time on TV. I can't help you now live, but if you forward that to me, I'd be happy to get to work on it.
Right, let's take it up at our next meeting then.
All right, sounds good.
Okay. 4597 Main Street. I know, Jim, you've done some work there.
Actually, Veronica asked that this be placed, so I would defer to her and see if she has anything specific. I do have some information that I can provide as an update, but I know Veronica had the interest in having it placed.
Yeah, I did. So give me a minute to switch gears here to the next thing. I guess there's a couple things. I would, I think, we need to put in place, this is another policies and procedures for tax liens, not as far as law goes, but what happens when something is on the books, that is in land court. I mean, this property was foreclosed on by the town in 2016, September of 2016. So that's where the town provided notice that we were going forward in land court with this. So that's done. The land court provided us, the town, with the information, and they finished that in January of 2020. And I think I'm not sure by law exactly, the owners had time to appeal. There's an appeal period, maybe 90 days or some such thing. So it's probably around March where we, the town, own this now. So I would like to have a process in place for when we take tax liens, we have 4 other properties in land court right now, and that this process takes years. It's not a quick process, it appears. So, but there are things, another property from 2016, maybe, and some from 2017. So there are other properties coming forward, not necessarily brownfield properties, but properties that the town could potentially own in another year or two. And I think we should have some sort of process in place for determining what we're going to do when we do own them. I mean, what happens now? Do they just get put in the assessor's map and boom, that's it? Or do we have an idea of what we're doing with those properties? So that's number one. Number two, brownfield redevelopment team. I think it would be good if we put one in place to consider what we're going to be doing. I think we should be, the 21E. I would like a team in place looking at the results of that. I think we were, the last one that was done said this was a tier 2 property as opposed to a tier 1. So it'll be interesting to see what has happened over the past, that was 15 years ago. It'll be interesting to see what in the past 10 years since they last sampled those wells, where those test sites, what has happened. So what's the status with the 21E? When do we expect to have that completed, Jim? And can we put something in place for, I guess I have this here somewhere. This is from Mass DEP, the Brownfields Redevelopment Toolbox. Your community may want to consider forming a local team of property redevelopment stakeholders. Such a team is typically comprised of public and private parties from your community who have an interest in the well-planned cleanup and redevelopment of a local brownfield property. Can be made up of elected officials, planners, attorneys, environmental professionals, economic development officials, and or members of local environmental and citizen interest groups. And the purpose would be to decide what we're going to do with the project.
Your question is answered. Yes, I have seen that, but as better detail for you, that's not something that in my 30 years I've seen utilized for sites like the one we're talking about. When you're dealing with the GE site, when you're dealing with WR Grace, when you're dealing with substantial redevelopment problems and opportunities, some of the work that went on, the circle of work that went on at Devon's is where you'd have those types of teams.
And they are probably tier 1 sites, not a tier 2 site, correct?
I'm sure that there have been both. My point is that for a 1 acre site, obviously if the board chooses to put such a group of attorneys and environmentalists and economic development professionals together, God bless you. That's your prerogative to do it on a 1 acre site. With the history that this site already has recorded, I'm not certain that this is anything that was contemplated for, but be that as it may, I have seen that, and that is an option available to the town. Some of the history that, you've gone and recounted some of the history. I think there's some pieces that could be filled in a little bit. Back in 2013, the then land use coordinator did a report for the then treasurer collector and the then town administrator, and stated that she had done the research and had dealt with DEP, lists the name and the title of the contact person at DEP's Brownfield division. And I don't want to misstate it in any way. So she writes, all with whom I spoke felt there were no imminent dangers on or off site. Testing was completed by DEP in 2010 and found to have no results greater than the thresholds of hazardous materials that would cause harm to health and safety of residents or the environment. DEP has years of testing to prove this. As far as reaching the harbor pond, back when the spill occurred in the 80s, a sheen was discovered on the pond, but any hazardous materials that could contaminate the pond or the river are long gone. So this was a report that was done back in 2013 by the then land use coordinator when the town was assessing whether or not this is something that the town should be pursuing, because we had not only the fact that it had been in tax title since '03, but this is on or about the time that the owner passed away. So there isn't currently an owner of record. The matter was in probate. The kids didn't want anything to do with it. So it really was a limbo parcel that was going to sit just as it was unless the town interceded. So the decision was made to go forward with the foreclosure based in large part on this information. So I'm reading from Barbara Tierney's file, who was our treasurer collector just prior to Anna coming on board. There's some further information that the then land use coordinator included in her reporting, specifically that under 21E section 2, so it's Mass General Law for contamination, section 2 for responsible parties, there is an exemption that's provided to a municipality from any liability. So this was also part of the report that the then land use coordinator gave to the treasurer collector at the time and the town administrator at the time.
That is also part of the law. That right. That is in the brownfields redevelopment, information.
Correct. And we've not said that publicly. And there has been some concern about the town having absorbed this liability. So just so everybody that has been following along understands, the town does have an exemption from liability.
We have to apply for that. I don't think it's automatic.
No, actually, it is automatic if we do certain things.
Correct.
And we have done those certain things, notified DEP. We have gone in and secured the property. That's when we went in and changed all the locks and cut the brush down from around the edges. And we're not using the property. So we're doing nothing to contribute to the furtherance of any contamination. More than that, we're taking the next step, which is towards a further assessment on that point. While we don't have any liability, our ultimate end goal here is to put it back out into active reuse because it's laying dormant now for the better part of 25 years. I did reach out after our last meeting, as I indicated that I would, and I've received approval in writing from EPA that we have funding secured for the phase 2 update, which you'll recall a phase 2 study was done, but all the way back in the 90s, so it needs to be updated, and that will involve the location, cleaning, and resampling of the wells to determine exactly what the state of the situation is on property and on the adjacent parcels. So we do have those funds committed, and that's on the range of $35,000 to $50,000 for that work, and that is grant money, not loan money. This is the stuff that we do.
Well, perhaps
on the staff level.
You could include Wayne and I then on these emails. You could forward them to us when they come in so that we're aware of this as well. You wanted to have the discussion tonight. I just got it last week. Confirmed. So I'm putting all of the pieces together in anticipation of you suggesting you want 97 Main Street on the agenda, period, full stop, no additional descriptor as to what you want to talk about. So I don't know where you want to go with it. So I then spend the time of doing the things that on a staff level that we would normally be doing, which is
Mr. Chair. Wayne, can I speak in regards to this?
Very quickly, I want to move on from this because we're doing the things we're supposed to be doing.
Well, I appreciate that, all right? But, Jim, I'm going to have to disagree with you on a lot what you have to say. I have first-hand knowledge of that property, that spill, that 2,000 gallons of gas that did leak in the ground. I have very intense reports from the DEP. I tried purchasing that property. I've got names of gentlemen. They have said out with no questions asked that whoever takes over that property, it has been getting better because of the high water, low water. It's migrated. The biggest issue the town may have, and I hope you be very careful with, is them 2 houses that are on the opposite side of the street that were 100% contaminated, soil front and back of the houses. And whatever we do, they say we have to put the monitoring above ground tanks for years, whoever purchases it. So second of all, the building is really in disarray and the building is collapsing inside. And yeah, go and change the locks. If someone breaks in that building, the roof is caving in, Jim, and I'm sure you don't want to speak about that. The septic system's in full failure. Please, we have to spend millions of dollars to fix a problem we should never have gotten involved in. That's all I have to say.
And Joe, you're not disagreeing with me. You're disagreeing apparently with what I read, which is the written report of the former land use coordinator.
Is it your opinion or is it the DEP?
She is citing her conversations in this report with the DEP.
And I can give you a report too if you'd like to.
I'm going to stop the discussion. I'm going to stop the discussion on this.
Thank you.
We're doing the what we need to necessary steps with the EPA and the DEP. We're redoing the study, which is the first step in that. Let's see where we're at with that, and then we can have a discussion on whether this is a brownfield or what we need to do next. I think.
And Jim, you'll include us on any emails that come in or documents that come in on this, including the land use coordinator thing that you're talking about. That wasn't in the folder that I went through.
This was actually in the treasurer collector's office from the tax title attorney. Mm-hmm. So the one that I actually reached out to the tax title attorney to get copies of this stuff. It wasn't something that was in-house. At the last meeting, Veronica, I said that I was going to do certain things, and I'd report back at the next meeting, which is what I do the way between the two meetings. Something comes across my screen and you want me to send it off to you, I'd be happy to do that, but that's different than how we've been doing things. So you just need to let me know.
Okay. Let's move on to 46 South Row Road donation parcel. It's a tongue twister. Is this just another update?
No, this is the parcel that Jim, you got an email about back in August, and it was sent out to all the boards to comment on. And I know the planning board commented. The email said that this was a gift to the town, and it's been quite a few months. And I think that we should take a vote on whether we're going to accept this or not. The past two Conservation Commission meetings, I thought they were going to discuss this. And at the last one, they did not. They have to do more research on it. But I guess I would like you to reach out to the attorney and find out what the status is and if this is still being offered to the town, and perhaps we should vote on whether to accept it or not.
Well, you'd be voting whether to submit it to town meeting for the possibility of acceptance.
Correct.
You don't have the authority as a board to accept it. The Conservation Commission could, absent a town meeting, but absent the Conservation Commission's interest, your only alternative is to go to
But I guess I want to
meeting.
know what the deal is with the attorney. Is it still available? Is it a gift? What's the status on this parcel? And also the Conservation Commission, what do they have thoughts on that?
Well, if they keep not putting it on their agenda, that clearly tells me they're not interested in taking action on it. So, Jim, if you could reach out to those things, and next meeting we'll just put this to bed and get it on the town meeting warrant.
Gotcha.
That's all I don't know.
Okay. 47 CVRF round 2 application status report.
So the application was submitted. We've had some communication back that I've forwarded off to you both from our representative looking for some clarification on a few things. That's been sent back out with better detail for him to consider. The Affordable Housing Trust has taken a vote that they would like to see their original ask of $40,000 increased to $100,000. Those funds are available under the carve out for the town of Townsend. But the application really is something that has been coming through the select board. So before I would make any effort to update the application, I'd want to run it by you folks and make certain that you're agreeable to submitting that information off and seeking to increase from 40 to 100 for the Affordable Housing Trust mortgage and rental assistance.
I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that either. Jim, I must have missed the email with the questions on it.
I can't right now. I can't check it right now, but specifically there was a question about what had been previously approved as having been the library project. We had a note in the application that said previously approved. This is a new representative. Mr. Sweeney is new to us, so he just wanted me to send that prior information where it had been approved by our earlier representative. And then there was a question regarding the IT, AV, and wireless access point upgrades for the auditorium for the Great Hall that are obviously, that had already also been previously approved. So I sent him that information as well. And he wrote back that he appreciated it and he'd review it and speak back with me.
Okay. Do you need a vote then, Jim? Or
no, just
okay. Just that's an update.
Okay. So that's fine. We'll make that amendment.
Okay, perfect. All right, some good news. We have a letter from the police chief. I'll read that. Veronica, if you want to read the accommodations or recognition awards. Does that sound?
I don't have that in front of me. I didn't pick up the packet at town hall.
Okay.
I read it. I can bring it up on my screen. I'll do that.
Or you want to read the letter and I'll read the accommodations then?
Either way.
Whatever's easiest for you.
Okay, let me, I just have to scroll down through the packet.
It's okay.
Should be right before the Franklin Pierce stuff, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. All right. So, do you want me to read Chief Sartell's letter or just the recognition award?
No, I tell the story.
Pardon me? I
tell the whole story. So.
All right. So, so I'll read the first one, the one with the 4.7 tag on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Townsend Board of Selectmen from James P. Sartell, Chief of Police, regarding formal letters of commendation life-saving awards. On Friday evening, October 30th, 2020, Officer Jeffrey Giles and Michael Marchand responded to a reported motor vehicle crash. Upon arrival, however, the officers discovered an unresponsive 52-year-old man who was in cardiac arrest. The officers took quick action to administer CPR and utilized an AED to care for the subject until TFD paramedics arrived. The actions taken immediately upon their arrival were described by medical personnel as high performance, high quality care. I am happy to report that the man survived this cardiac arrest incident. I am extremely proud of these officers and consider myself fortunate to work with men, a testament to their commitment to training and to serve and help others, even in the most difficult and stressful of circumstances. As the Chief of Police for the Townsend Police Department, it is my honor to commend these officers for their exemplary actions on the date of October 30th, 2020, actions that reflect great credit upon themselves, the Townsend Police Department, and the town of Townsend. Sincerely, James P. Sartell, Chief of Police. And I'm wondering, Chief Sartell, if you shouldn't have read this.
Sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty good.
And I'll read the awards. We, the duly elected board of the town of Townsend, do hereby provide the citation in recognition of the truly selfless and heroic actions of Michael Marchand. October 30th, Michael Marchand reported a vehicle accident in which a fellow resident was in cardiac arrest, whereas Michael Marchand, with no thought for his own personal safety, immediately leapt into action, providing care to his fellow citizen. And whereas in a day and age where people's lives have become so hectic that unfortunately oftentimes concern for our neighbors can fall by the wayside, and whereas Michael Marchand has demonstrated for all through their thinking and actions what true community looks like, and whereas Michael Marchand training and experience in emergency care undoubtedly saved a person's life, even the 17th day of November in the year 2020 for the town of Townsend, signed by us. So I guess we'll sign these out of session tomorrow as well. And second, we, the duly elected Board of Selectmen of the town of Townsend, do hereby provide this citation in recognition of the truly selfless and heroic actions of Jeffrey Giles. Whereas on October 30th, 2020, Jeffrey Giles reported to a motor vehicle accident which a fellow resident was in cardiac arrest, and whereas Jeffrey Giles, with no thought of their own personal safety, immediately leapt into action, providing care to this fellow citizen. And we're in a day of age where people's lives have become so hectic that unfortunately oftentimes concern for their neighbors can fall by the wayside, and whereas Jeffrey Giles has demonstrated for us all through quick thinking and actions what the true community looks like, and whereas Jeffrey Giles' training experience in emergency care undoubtedly saved this person's life, given this 17th day of November, the year 2020, for the Townsend, again, signed by the Board of Selectmen. So, good job, guys.
Thank you, Officers Giles and Marchand.
Yep, that's great. Now we have another good news from the police chief. Approve a memorandum of understanding with Franklin Pierce. So Jay, I'm going to let you talk on this one. How's that?
Sure. You have the paperwork in front of you, which is probably more information than I have, but I'll give you a broad overview. In the process of looking for places to advertise and promote patrol officers positions, I reached out to some alumni associations and those types of things at local colleges, and Franklin Pierce, and I engaged in a conversation about tuition for adult learners. And they did offer and do offer a program in which town employees would be subject to a 20% tuition reduction. Should we enter into an MOU with them? There are no strings attached. The only issue the only obligation that we would have is to promote that program with our employees and or be used in any promotional material that they may use to promote the college, vis-a-vis that we are involved in some sort of tuition assistance program through them. It really does look like there's all upside, no downside. I do know that of a few people at the department anyways, at the police department anyways, that expressed interest should we go in that direction. I am an alumnus there, but I did not attend any online learning with them, but I can speak to the university's quality. They were very well represented in our latest round of hiring as well, and they do offer a whole slew of majors that certainly transcend criminal justice. They have a renowned business program. They really do have a robust curriculum, and I do think it would be a benefit for all town employees to be able to opt in if they.
I think that's great. That's very good news. I have no opposition for a slam dunk MOU.
I think it's great. I have a couple questions. One is, do we need to have town council review before we sign, or can we just sign this? Has Adam looked at this? It looks fine to me, but I don't know if that's a standard procedure. The other question I had is, when it's employees, does that include board and committee members? What's the municipal employee? Or is it just people who actually, for whether it includes, it would be wonderful if it included boards and committee members. Yeah. But it's a wonderful opportunity for the staff and their children, because it includes that.
Mr. Chairman, if you're inclined to approve it this evening, perhaps approve it subject to review by council. Any edits he might find as appropriate. I know the one that jumped out at me is the construction agreement is to be read in conformance with the laws of the state of New Hampshire. And generally, council says anything we enter into should be tied to the law.
Okay.
So he'll likely pass on that, but if you wanted to just condition it upon his eyes and his quick review.
Okay. Can I get a motion then, Veronica?
I move that we approve the memorandum of understanding with Franklin Pierce University as submitted by the police chief after review by town council.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Veronica Kell, yes.
Wayne Miller, yes. Thanks a lot, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
410, discuss, answer an open meeting law complaint. So what do we got here?
Mr. Chairman, in your packet, you have a copy of an open meeting law complaint that was filed by town resident Joan Savoy, and it is specific to the release of minutes of the Board of Selectmen, both open session and 2 specific executive sessions. So if it would please the board, a response plans on or before Monday, November 23rd. Now, Monday, November 23rd, what we'll be talking about in a moment or two is when we'll be looking at convening to have the budget summit. So you already have the opportunity to be meeting that night, and we could add a couple of sets of minutes for your review over the weekend. So presuming that would be the case. On or before Monday, November 23rd, the Board of Selectmen shall vote to approve and release all open session meeting minutes voted and approved by the Board of Selectmen, and further shall vote to approve and release all executive session minutes for which the executive session privilege has expired. The reason it's important to have that last phrase is there are a couple of items in the executive session for which the privilege has not yet expired. So those would be able to be approved but not released.
Okay. I'm just looking for one thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
It was June, is that correct? Draft minutes that we haven't approved yet?
Yeah, there were some that you had asked to hold on, and I know Carolyn hadn't heard back from you yet on some. I'm not certain which ones those were, Veronica. And then there were some executives that I had done as well, not these specific ones that are cited in this complaint that you also
I know
said
that there are ones
some
from the September executive session that I wanted to edit. But so we're looking at July minutes. And so the next question becomes, do we have to, this is how does this board do things? When I've done them in the past with other boards, we come to the meeting and we say, I want to change this, 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 and this. We don't always have it out ahead of time. If we have to get everything out ahead of time to you with the changes that we want, Monday, November 23rd, because of the number of minutes that there are, that's a little bit aggressive.
I think we need to be aggressive, given, as Ms. Savoy's complaint rightfully states, the preference of the Division of Open Government is that within 30 days of a meeting, ideally even sooner, you have minutes approved and out. So, you know, I know that there are, you know, I know that there are some some from the September executive session that you also said that you had some some from the September executive session that you also said that you had some some from the September executive session that you also said that you had some some from the September executive session that you also said that you had some some from the September executive session that you also said that you had some some from the September executive session that you also said that you had some some from the September executive session that you also said that you had some some from the September executive session that you also said that you had some some from the September executive session that you also said that you had some some from the September executive session that you also said that you had some some from the September executive session that you also said that you had some some from the September executive session that you also said that you had some some from the September executive session that you also said that you had some some from the September executive session that you also said that you had some some from the September executive session that you also said that you had some some from the September executive session that you also said that you communities that are backed up on minutes and it's tied to COVID and that the Division of Open Government has been giving grace on that. I don't think that we should seek such grace. I think we should just recognize it for what it is, that this is a stack of minutes. I know Carolyn this past week spent a considerable amount of time doing minutes. In fact, she was off-site where she wouldn't have the interruptions that would normally accompany her day to get them done. So I think we can have them to you end of the week. And if you have questions or concerns, it's really your prerogative as a board if you want to make those corrections live and in real time, or if you want to submit them to staff and staff can then recycle them back out again for consideration and ultimate vote at the public
Typically,
session.
that's what we've done in the past, Frank, is that she sends them out like on a Thursday before our meeting, asks for review and or spell check and all the customary things. And I'll review them and send back my comments back, and then by the time it gets to our meeting, all we're doing is rubber stamping and approving them.
Yeah, that works if you have one. But if you have...
I know, but it has been in the case where we've had several in the past that we've had to do them. We just can't keep letting these pile up. So what we can do, the latest ones, by December 2nd, we get those polished out. I want these done.
I can bring my changes to the meeting. I can't guarantee I'll have them all done before then.
Okay. I'd get as many done as you can on
Okay.
this.
All right. So I had a question. All right. So let's do that. So we will be reviewing the draft minutes for July, August, September, October, November.
Correct.
Correct.
And the executive sessions, the two specifically cited in the complaint, and any others that all executive session review for approval and only released if the executive session privilege for which the session was held has no longer exists. So for instance,
wasn't on the board in June.
So it could be, I wasn't on the board, so I abstain. Wayne's on the board. He says yes. Then it's a 1 yes, no no's, 1 abstention. That passes.
Okay. All right. So we're looking at about, for regular session minutes, 11. There were 3 July meetings, 2 in August, 2 September, 2 October, 2 November.
Yeah. Well,
I guess we would
today,
need
November?
to do today or
nor would we really need to do the second.
Okay, so 9 sets of minutes.
Several of which at least you've already had the opportunity to review and have had some question about. So those are presumably near ready for your comments and changes. I'd hope they've been sitting for a while.
Yeah. So, okay. This open meeting law complaint, it came in on October 22nd. Shouldn't we have had it before today, like the November 2nd meeting?
I'm not certain actually when it came in.
The date on it is October 22nd.
Yeah, the date on mine is, well, that's the date that it was signed. I don't know, the sticky note was put over when it was.
I can't see it either.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, it would be, yeah, you're correct. It would be the next meeting after it's been received. I just don't know when it was received.
Okay. All right.
Great. On to 411.
It was handed in the same day as the date on it. I had it date stamped.
Okay.
I have a question. Can I just ask, this is more open meeting law, just general. You must submit a copy of the complaint to the chair of the public body and to the municipal clerk. So did this come to you, Wayne?
No, if you read the complaint, it's against Jim. It's not against the board. So I didn't see it.
Well, it's against both, and it's coming to the chair of the board through this packet, through this meeting. It was the receipt. So if Joan is saying Joan, did you say you hand delivered it to the clerk or to Carolyn?
I hand delivered it to Kathy Spofford, told her who was to, and had a date stamped, and she said she would get it to the.
Okay.
All right, let's button this up and move forward. Get these moved on.
So is what I read an agreeable response to this open meeting law complaint? Because what I would like to do is get this response out instead of waiting until next Monday to give a response and letting another 7 days tick by.
Let's get it out and get it done.
Okay. Lovely.
All right. 4/11/2020 tree hunt and town-owned property. I think this is you again, Veronica.
Yeah, and I see that Karen's on the call too. This was an idea that Karen came up with for because you can't in the library do the Festival of Trees this year. Oh, yeah. And this is something that Chelmsford does. And it looks like fun. The only difference really is that we hunt on most of the properties in town, whereas in Chelmsford, I don't know they have the same hunting situation that we have. Anyway, and she can probably talk more about that. Choose a property and a tree once she has permission for the properties. And to decorate the tree. And she had sent out, I think you and me, Wayne, I don't know if anybody else, I don't know if you got it, Jim, or not.
It did,
came out today, I believe.
Yep.
With the requirements for the decorations on the tree itself. And so the hunt would go from December 1st, I think it is.
December 1st. So must be up by December 1st, 2020. No edibles, because animals strip edibles in a few hours, leaving just strings. You must check on it and replace any missing items. Must be weather resistant, tasteful, and family friendly. No political items. You must remove it by January 9th, 2021. Must be easy to see, less than 3 feet from the trail. For trails which allow hunting, please decorate a tree near the trail entrance and wear bright colored clothing when decorating in the hunting areas. If uncertain about something, Karen has her contact information here. Please observe COVID-19 protocols. Let's be safe. If you see others coming down the trail, make sure you're wearing a mask and one party steps aside to give recommended distance to the other. And maps could be found on Facebook, Townsend Tree Hunt 2020. And then the what do I do? Go to each site, find the tree, take a picture with the tree. Not a necessity. What if the tree is trashed? Call Karen and then her contact info. If you can't find the tree, maybe Karen could help. Contact her. And again, please observe that it is COVID-19 and hunting season.
Yeah, I just asked that the groups follow the COVID-19 per the governor.
And so town properties, I guess the request is town properties. Is it okay to
decorate a town property tree?
To decorate a tree on town property? I know the Land Trust Board is going to see about that.
I'll check with Roger too.
Yeah, well, I was going to say the interesting thing would be, Veronica, and you would probably know off the top of your head, if the Conservation Commission holds a restriction, they really have the authority to grant an authorization. So are any of the trail areas being contemplated under a CR that the CONSCOM holds?
There's only one other CR in town aside from the one that they're looking at now. And that property isn't really,
okay.
Old Meeting House Park does not have a CR on it. So that's open. It's open for hunting as well. I mean, but it is under the management of the Conservation Commission, but it does not have a CR.
So is their approval necessary to decorate trees within that space if they have management of it?
I have no idea. I really don't know. I mean, how does that work in the town? Do you need the Conservation Commission to do that? What about Howard Park? Howard Park is owned by the town, correct?
But that would be the Park, Cemetery and Parks Commission. So
but
perhaps
they don't own it. The town owns it.
Well, the town owns the common, the town owns the upper common, but they have care, custody, control statutorily.
Correct. Parks and Cemeteries. Same with Howard Park. The town owns that property.
Right. So perhaps you vote to approve the program, subject to the authorization of any board or commission that has care, custody, and control or management of the underlying properties. Then on a staff level, we can go out to those folks and get the individual approvals, but you've approved the program overall.
Yeah. So can I get a motion on that then, Veronica?
I move that we approve the 2020 tree hunt on any properties that are town properties, contingent on the managing department or board or committee agreeing to allow access to the property.
Excellent.
And I'll second that. All those in favor?
Veronica Kell, yes.
Wayne Miller, yes. Thank you, Karen.
Karen, is Karen on? Is she allowed to talk?
Real quickly, I'm running out of time here.
I would just kind of like her to send a list to Jim of all the properties that are town controlled that need to be looked at.
That they're thinking about. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Is Karen on?
Just the ones that you're thinking of doing, not every town property.
Correct. Yeah. Karen looks like she's muted. I don't even know.
Okay.
All right. I don't see her on the list.
412
Okay.
review to approve, sign the contract for the purchase of an ambulance submitted by the fire chief. I'm sorry. So this is the ambulance we've been waiting to buy.
That's not in my packet or on my.
In the packets.
I got mine in front of me. It's just the purchase agreement with the purchase and sale agreement for the as budgeted.
It's the
ambulance.
Procurement compliance check sheet to show that procurement was done properly, that this is the purchase of an ambulance pursuant to the town meeting authorization, and the lease agreement with community leasing partners, which is the way we've done, this will be the second that we've done in this fashion. So the purchase amount or the amount financed is $292,990, and there would be a 3-year payment of $100,558.20 at interest rate of 2.99%, for a total over the life of the lease agreement of $301,674.60.
That is not in the online packet.
Oh, it's in.
I didn't go into town hall because of COVID. It must have been put in the hard copy packet.
It is. I got mine last week, so.
Keep going. Was this approved by capital planning? Is this the ambulance that was approved by capital planning?
By capital planning, so it has the town meeting authorization through the capital planning committee and through town meeting, and it's consistent with what we did last time, which was a lease agreement through community leasing partners.
Yeah, and this is less than the town approved at town meeting. So
if it pleased the board, it would be a motion to execute the contract for the purchase of the ambulance in the amount of $292,990, and to execute the lease agreement with community leasing partners for $301,674.60.
Can I get a motion for that, Veronica?
And to sign out of session.
All right. I move
just
that we execute the lease agreement with community. What's the name of the
Community Leasing Partners.
Community Leasing Partners.
Yep.
For the base amount of $292,990.
Correct.
With a total cost of $301,674.60.
That is correct.
And signed out of session.
And signed out of session.
And I'll second that. All those in favor?
Veronica Kell, yes.
Wayne Miller, yes. Thanks, Chief. Okay, 5-1 Town Administrator Updates Report.
The only thing I have is this came in after the agenda went up, but it's important to speak about, which is a COVID-19 related update. Just in case people in the community have heard and are wondering, we did have an employee test positive for COVID-19, and the protocol as voted by the Board of Selectmen that's been in place since the pandemic began was put into work, and we interface with the Neshoba Associated Boards of Health. The employee, upon realizing that they had a positive test result, contacted me over the weekend. I contacted the Board of Health agent, contact tracing nurse. The contact tracing nurse has engaged the individual who had the positive test to do the contact tracing. There's a protocol that they follow for that, where they look at backward from the onset of symptoms, and then they grill the person to who they saw or with for a period of 15 minutes over a 24-hour period, either all in one fell swoop or cumulatively. And for that 15-minute period, were within 6 feet of the person, whether masked or not masked. So that contact tracing has taken place. Those employees that were identified by the employee who is who tested positive have been notified. They are required statutorily to quarantine for 10 days. After the 5th day, they are required to be tested. Even if they test negative, they're still required to fulfill the 10-day quarantine before they come back. So that is all underway now. In terms of notification, I know Veronica sent me a message earlier today looking to find out how the notification process went. This is a really tricky thing because we have an obligation to the greater public to make them aware, but we also have a very tight and specific legal obligation under HIPAA to protect the individuals that are impacted's health information. So what got reported to the employees in the town hall was that we had a positive COVID test, and that the contact tracing would be taking place. And if they were notified by the contact tracing folks, they'd be advised what to do. And if they weren't notified, that we would be coming back into work the next day. So I did reach out to the chair and had the discussion about the need per the protocol that you voted to close the town hall for Monday. So we were closed yesterday, and doors open, windows open, and floor to ceiling cleanings of the place. I want to thank the facilities guys. They did a heck of a job in here. And then we had folks back in the building today, with the exception of those that are subject to quarantine. So we'll be monitoring as we go forward. There are a couple of folks that weren't identified as close contacts through the contact tracing, but just marginally missed the technical definition. And out of an abundance of caution, 2 of them were feeling somewhat symptomatic, and whether it was psychosomatic or really something that's happening as a result of that exposure, they're erring on the side of caution, and they're going to be getting tested. So they have self-quarantined and will be getting the tests as well. So that's where we stand on the specific actions that have taken place since we were notified on Sunday regarding 1 positive test from an employee.
Okay, let's hope everybody's healthy.
I guess on notification, my question is, are all the town employees, even those who don't work in town hall, notified when something like this happens? Do you rely, rely on the person who's positive to say, these are the people I was in contact with. What if someone from another department had come to town hall?
Yep, if that was, well, I'll back it up. Yes, just the people in town hall were given the blanket notification because the building that was being closed was the town hall. It was their work site. So the notice was primarily to let them know on Sunday evening that you can't come to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
So they get notified, and then it then switches from your protocol, which is to close the building, do the cleaning, to the contact tracing from the Neshoba Associated Boards of Health nurse. She then deals with the person with the positive test, and that person identifies anyone that they were with, whether they work in the town hall or they're in another department. So if somebody from another department met that criteria, 15 minutes either in one fell swoop or over 24 hours, closer than 6 feet, either masked or unmasked, didn't matter if they were in this building or they came from the police department or the highway or anywhere else, they would have been tagged as a close contact, would have been contacted by the nurse and put onto the quarantine. So the only people that got the direct notice were those that weren't being allowed to come into the building the next day.
Okay. So I don't know. I guess this is probably something that you guys set up before I was on the board. But I think it would be good if people knew that town hall was closed because of a COVID case. Even people that worked in the library or the senior center or Parks and Rec or water department. That's all.
I understand that, and it was your protocol as a board, not yours, you weren't on, but as the Board of Selectmen. So if you want to tweak it to make that point, then we can do that, because it's just as easy as adding a few more names to the distribution list. It's just, I think the original discussion was to keep it as need to know it as possible, to try to balance the HIPAA stuff, because the more people that know, the more that start to ask, I wonder who it was, well, who was it? And we have to be really cautious about staying away from that. But to your point, if somebody from the library needed to come over to the town hall that day, they'd spend the time. They
got there and said, whoa, and they hadn't. Yeah. So just to say, look, someone's tested positive, no matter what building it's in, and, and you'll be notified if you were in contact with them. And that's that, Yeah. So I think it might be good to update that way.
Okay. And let's just hope it doesn't happen again.
Well, here's the next question. The town hall is where the children's program is going on.
Correct.
And I thought that was starting this week. So
it did start last week.
And so it was closed yesterday because of COVID?
It was moved because of the number of students. Actually, as of yesterday, there was just one student in attendance because some other folks, for a variety of different reasons, pulled kids. So they actually convened in the rec building, which had been vacant and unoccupied by anybody for the better part of a week.
Okay. So do we need any, I know if you go to the senior center, you get, they shoot you with the with the temperature thing. Do we need to do temperature screenings?
Well,
do we need to ask people the questions, especially with the holidays coming up?
I think that's an excellent point, Veronica. And we do have a part of the protocol that could be implemented, which is each department head self-certifying their employees with the questions. There's nothing that was voted by the board that goes as far as to actually take the temperatures. Doesn't mean we can't.
Those are not really effective, the surface thermometers, but it's the same as the students that have to go to the high school or any of the schools. They have to do a self-assessment in the morning with the parents to see if they're okay to go to school, whether that's a temperature check or how do you feel today.
Right.
We got to rely on that too.
So we could elevate that section of the protocol, Veronica, for this point until further notice. Each day, self-certifying to your supervisor,
that you feel okay,
right? That I haven't exposed to somebody, I haven't traveled, I haven't, all the questions we're all familiar with being asked whenever we try to go someplace.
And maybe to put on the website, if you if you're traveling out of Massachusetts, over the holidays, whether it's Thanksgiving, Christmas, when you come back, you need to either quarantine or have tests.
Well, part of elevating that section of the protocol would be when somebody buzzes into the intercom, we now ask those questions. So
yeah,
hearing this conversation effective from this point until further notice, John Doe comes up and wants to go to the tax collector's office, hits the buzzer instead of just being engaged and let in. If there's no one else in the office, but we've been doing it, they'll be asked the question.
I think that
before they're let into the building.
That's prudent. Because they have to do it when they go to the doctor's office or wherever. No.
Right. Okay.
Okay. All right. 5.2 Board of Selectmen announcements. I have none. It looks like you have one, Veronica.
Well, it's not really an announcement. I just wanted to know about the budget process and how things were rolling forward with that.
Okay.
I think isn't that the discussion we're having on Monday?
Yep.
I think so. Yeah.
Just to put the kind of broader brushstrokes around it, the selectmen have adopted a budget policy. It's part of the selectmen's policies. It's available online. It contemplates on a staff level the 5-year rolling expense plan being updated. So if we know, for instance, that as of House 1 from Governor Baker, that local aid is going to be, 27 cents, we can plug that in with the footnote that it's the best that we have now. So we update that cell. If we expect that based on, other indicators in the marketplace that our revenues are going to be either increased or decreased, we can make those updates. So that work is nearly done. It'll be done probably in the next couple of days on the staff level. That then gets reported out in what's called in your policy a budget summit. So that is where the select board, finance committee, and a representative from the school department, in this case it would be Mr. Templeton, who came to your last meeting and was identified as the contact. We sit at the table, we go over the revenue projections and what assumptions have been built in, what that bottom line projection number looks like, what we know, if anything, to date about projected expenditures for next year, any fixed cost increase, and we have a good discussion about it. It's a little bit, it's going to be a little bit of a fallacy this year doing it because we don't yet even know now coming on 6 months into this fiscal year if we're fish or fowl. We have, based on the governor's number that he put out and based on indications at least tentatively from the Senate's version of the budget, we look like we're going to be okay on state aid. But until, again, the budget is final and the ink is dry, we won't know that we are or aren't in a good spot with fiscal 21's budget, the current year's budget. So it's a little weird to be talking about 22's 6 months before it starts when you're really uncertain about the ground you're currently 6 months standing on.
So the 5-year financial forecast, where is that found? Or is that something that we'll get when we meet on Monday, if that's when we're meeting?
Yeah, you'll likely get it earlier than that, and board members will get a live Excel version of, I think it's probably some 15 or 20 worksheets in a workbook but you'll become familiar with it pretty quickly, Veronica.
So, and what about the capital planning committee? When does that get?
Capital planning committee, I'd have to pull the bylaw and actually see what their deadline is. I want to say that they have a December or January as well. So
I think it's in November. I read this budget policy. In November, the Capital Planning Committee releases capital request forms and instructions to department heads. So this year, maybe December.
The forms. Okay, I thought you meant when are they going to have their
But would they have to be appointed and meet? I mean, I don't know even if the planning board has an appointment to, the boards need to know to appoint someone so that maybe in December they can get rolling. I know certain. I started in January.
Yeah, I'm not certain. I'm not certain that they are annual appointments, are they? I'd have to look.
The ones
think
from
they are.
the ones from the boards are. There are like 3 at large. I don't have the capital planning committee makeup in front of me, but I know from being on it last year for the planning board,
Jim,
I
can you
was
just
appointed at the beginning of January.
I'll
and I
check
was
on that.
late.
pull it up. I'll pull that up and get it out to you guys too. But you will, as a part of the summit meeting, I'll also talk about the fact that the budget memo will also be going out to departments on the operating budget side of things. So I'll be entertaining any direction or comments or thoughts that you have regarding what the tone or tenor or any limitations that should be included in that budget memo. When we sit down and talk next Monday night, because probably within the week after is when I'll just send the budget memo out so we can start getting people's budgets back in January.
Thanks.
All right.
All right, 5-3, clerk of the board. I don't think we have any events. So I don't know if we can kick that one off for quite some time. I don't think we need to keep putting it on there. Okay. 5-4, board of liaison reports. I have none.
I guess I did attend the planning board meeting last night, and there was a question about that 50 Highland Street referral. Not really a question, but
And actually, I did get your tickler on that, Veronica.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the ability to ask because of staffing in the building. So I just sent it out myself tonight. And if it's redundant, I apologize, but I did send it out to Beth, and Beth responded back, thank you. So that'll be in hand for the meeting tomorrow night.
Okay. All right. And I know that Council on Aging was also interested in knowing the status of the license agreement. So those were the only 2 things I had.
Okay.
Are you going to tell them what the status is, or are they expecting to hear it from me, or?
Well, I guess Jim Hamill is the person. Did you receive an email
and
from
I've
him?
quite intentionally not responded. Just because I'm trying to not engage in this matter, particularly when it's not yet been finalized by the board. You're almost, and we've had a public discussion about it now, so I can update him on what occurred tonight, which is that.
That would be good then.
Okay. All right, 5-5, review, sign bills payable. Can I get a motion there?
I move that we review and sign the bills payable warrant out of session.
Second. All those in favor?
Veronica Cal, yes.
Wayne Miller, yes.
And next week, you'll take care of it, right?
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I canceled my Thanksgiving trip because I don't want to quarantine. Mom's not happy, but what can you do? All right, we have an executive session. Veronica, I'm going to read this or make the motion if you don't mind, just because.
Chairman, actually, if I could just cut in, Mr. Chairman, we can't do this one tonight based on how it's presented. So
okay,
you're good for a motion to adjourn.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn then, Veronica?
I move that we adjourn at 8:33 p.m.
And I'll second. All those in favor?
Veronica Cal, yes.
Wayne Miller, yes. All right, thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Night.
Stay safe.
Night.